So I suppose this video is a good example of what my channel is going to be like, as up until now I've only made videos in this format relating to Star Wars. But I plan on covering a lot of topics within pop culture that I personally find to be interesting and have a passion for. The video after this is actually a crossover between The Joker and The Last Jedi, and basically looking at the fact that both handle nihilism, but in completely different ways, and why as a consequence TLJ is reviled and why Joker is hailed as the movie of the decade. So with that out of the way, let's dig into this, shall we? I'd like to start off by saying I plan on making a video about the problems that are in Boruto, but this video is more directed at the supposed problems that I've seen been made against Boruto by Naruto fanboys who simply misunderstand the manga or slash anime. A common argument that I've seen been made against Boruto is that he's a carbon copy of Naruto. Okay, well, ignoring the argument that genetics do affect the personality of a person, it's still fallacious to say that he is an exact copy. Boruto's background and Naruto's background are completely different, and a person's background also affects the personality of a person. Boruto has the love of his entire family, and he's also the son of the Hokage. He's literally in the same position Naruto would have been in if Minato and Kushina didn't die at the night of Kurama/Obito's attack. Obviously, it's all fine and well that he's in a loving and doting family, sans his mostly absentee father, but as a result of all this, it results in him being a wee bit pampered and spoiled. And I don't know the specifics on Naruto's economic status, but I know they aren't middle class. I mean, he's the Hokage. I'm telling you guys that house is just to maintain the appearance of being humble. Y'all can't convince me otherwise that if Naruto wanted to, they'd all be living like they were Lannisters of Casterly Rock. So as a result of all this, Boruto is much more self-assured and arrogant than Naruto ever would be as a child. Naruto gave the appearance of confidence as a facade to hide his inner fears and doubts, whereas Boruto is 100% sincere in his self-assurance and cockiness. Beyond that, Naruto is much more boisterous and shouted his feelings. Boruto is usually a lot more reserved, and that's not to say that he doesn't have a temper, because boy, he inherited that Uzumaki temper. But the way he goes about it is completely different. Not to mention that just in general, the way both characters carry themselves are just not the same at all. Speaking of Boruto's arrogance and cockiness, are these negative traits? Well, in general, yes they are, though one could argue that a writer can write a character in a way that such negative traits actually come off as endearing. Take a character like Han Solo, for instance. For most of episode 4, he exudes character traits that would traditionally be considered undesirable, but because of the character's natural charisma, and Harrison Ford, Han became a fan favorite real fast. However, even if a character doesn't have that going for him or her, that doesn't mean he or she is a bad character necessarily. It usually means that the character's bad traits are supposed to annoy you by design, and or that the author wants to start out his character by being kind of a jerk, or a brat, I suppose you could say in this case, and wants to develop them slowly over time to where by the end of the story, the character in question almost looks like a completely different person. Jaime Lannister is a good, albeit flawed, example of this. Almost no one in season 1 or book 1, shout out to fellow book readers, could stand Jaime Lannister. He was your typical arrogant and spoiled pretty boy who looked down on people, and the fact that he pushed a little boy out of window didn't really endear himself to anyone either. And in season 2, or of Clash of Kings, we do get more from Jaime, but he still comes off as a jerk. By season 3, A Storm of Swords, through events that transpire, this boy don't have his sword hand no more, we see more into the soul of Jaime Lannister, and his character development from then on is nothing short of astounding, and really shows how powerful of a writing approach this is. I think something similar will happen with Boruto, because characters like Jaime have taught me to be more patient when it comes to annoying traits in characters. And these things don't ruin shows or make them unwatchable. On the contrary, when said character develops more and more, it pays dividends to the watchability of something. Then we go on to the complaints about Boruto and why he's a bad character because of his problems with his father. And I most likely will be in the minority when I say this, but Boruto has, or had rather, valid reasons to be angry with Naruto. He obviously doesn't go about it in constructive ways, but his feelings aren't invalid. Naruto is basically a deadbeat father. I mean, I'm pretty sure children of parents who are in the military see their parents far more than Boruto does. I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, and hardcore fans may be in denial about it, but it's true. And I'd like to point out that Boruto wasn't just angry for his sake. He was angry for his sister and mother as well. even if they understood why Naruto has to do what he does, that still doesn't change the reality that they're essentially being ignored by their father or slash husband. And the only explanation he gets from all this is some bullshit collectivist excuse that his father is father to all the village, so he should support his father's choice. And I know people just love to use the weak argument that Naruto had a much worse childhood and that Boruto should just keep his mouth shut because he doesn't know how good he has it. It's such an obvious and embarrassing use of a whataboutism that I feel secondhand embarrassment that people use this argument so much. Okay, so no one who uses this logic can ever feel any anger, sadness, depression, or any negative emotion whatsoever. Because hey, there's impoverished and malnourished children in Africa right now. That's how cringy people sound when they use such a dumb argument. Naruto's sad backstory doesn't exempt him from the fact that he's an objectively bad father. People also love to dismiss all of this as simple daddy issues. There's something about our culture where we for some reason regard people with daddy issues or mommy issues as pathetic. Even the term daddy issues is written or said in a way that to be dismissive and even mocking. People with these issues are not pathetic at all. They are serious issues and can be pretty emotional when used effectively in writing.
You will not be emperor.
Which wiser older man is to take my place?
My powers will pass to Maximus, to hold in trust until the Senate is ready to rule once more. Rome is to be a republic again.
Maximus.
Yes. My decision disappoints you?
You wrote to me once, listing the 4 chief virtues: wisdom, justice, fortitude, and temperance. As I read the list, I knew I had none of them. But I have other virtues, Father. Ambition. That can be a virtue when it drives us to excel. Resourcefulness, courage. Perhaps not on the battlefield, but there are many forms of courage. Devotion to my family, to you. But none of my virtues won your list. Even then, it was as if you didn't want me for your son.
Oh, Commodus. You go too far.
I searched the faces of the gods for ways to please you, to make you proud. One kind word, one full hug, where you pressed me to your chest and held me tight, would have been like the sum of my heart for 1,000 years. What is it in me you hate so much? All I've ever wanted was to live up to you. Caesar. Father.
Commodus? Your false as a son is my failure as a father. I would put to the whole world if you would only have loved me.
Yeah, go ahead and tell me that wasn't powerful or emotional. You're lying to yourself if you say otherwise. The one problem I will say that I had with Boruto's father complex is that it got resolved way too quickly. But I think that's more of an issue with anime or manga in general. Pacing can vary, and at times it feels like you're either stuck in an endless loop of flashbacks and exposition, or it feels like you're experiencing a 1 hour speedrun of a 100+ hour game. The former is tiresome and annoying, and the latter gives you a shallow experience. But I'll go into that subject at a later date, because I think they truly missed an opportunity when they just had Boruto get over all of his personal issues with his father in just one arc. Boruto doesn't hate Naruto as some of you seem to think. Whenever he's behaving like a brat or is being disrespectful, that's Boruto putting on a front, as if his father doesn't mean anything to him. That's his way of dealing with his emotions, but deep down, his father means the world to him. It's why he's so hurt by his father's absence. I showed that clip from Gladiator shortly ago, and while Commodus and Boruto are obviously two different characters, one specific line I think resonates the similarity between the two is this: "One kind word, one full hug, while you press me to your chest and hold me tight, would have been like the sun on my heart for 1,000 years." Boruto wouldn't express this in such a poetic way, but I do think this is a sentiment he'd get behind 100%. Another complaint is that Boruto, compared to his father at his age, is too OP. And I actually disagree with this. There's no rule in writing that says every main character has to be a blank slate whenever the story starts. Of course, you typically don't want your character's starting power level to be Dragon Ball Super Goku tier, but having a prodigy as a main character is not bad. Itachi was ridiculously OP, but you all know you'd watch a more in-depth spin-off series about him in a heartbeat. The trick to writing characters like that is to challenge them in different ways. Perhaps Boruto in one arc has to deal with a serious moral conundrum and tries to live with the consequences afterwards. Or in another arc, his sister is put in danger and kidnapped. He goes off alone and basically goes AWOL, determined to bring her back. But there are very few, if any, leads on who did it. Himawari is becoming somewhat of a fan favorite, so for the audience there is emotional weight to having her be found safely. And of course it goes without saying that how emotional of an arc this would be not just for Boruto, but for Naruto and Hinata as well. Naruto is a very powerful individual. It is literally impossible to be in the position he is in and not have political enemies. Perhaps Himawari becomes the target of a radical terrorist organization. Another idea is to not only present enemies that are on Boruto's physical power level, but present enemies that are not his power equal, but challenge him in other ways. The Joker has almost never been the physical equal to Batman, but he does psychologically challenge Batman to the point that he is one of, if not the greatest, of Batman's foes. Another thing I've seen people say is that this show used to be about how hard work is more important than natural talent, and a character like Boruto defeats the theme of this. And for this, I think Flea fanboys are just plucking facts out of thin air. The series has never been about that. Sure, hard work has been portrayed as being important in the early days of Naruto, and with hard enough work, you can stand toe-to-toe with natural talent. But clearly, there have been important characters in the history of this manga or anime who have not been the hard work type. Characters like Itachi, Neji, and Sasuke. These characters didn't defeat the message that hard work is important, and neither does Boruto. I'd also like to point out that by the end of the Momoshiki arc, Boruto learns that he should stop being careless when it comes to being a shinobi, and he starts putting more effort into that lifestyle. People who come up with this argument conveniently forget that the first fight we see Lee in, he loses to Gaara, who is another character that has natural talent. According to the logic of these people, then the message about hard work was defeated right there. I will say that Boruto has a long way to go before it is ever considered to be on the level of its predecessor, but I honestly do believe it can get there. I see the potential in the characters, the setting, and the premise, and I want to love it already. The manga is already leagues above the anime, but even the manga has a long way to go to prove itself to be the true successor to Naruto. In the anime, while it has its moments, it needs to focus less on stupid crap like that Chocho arc, and more on arcs like the current Boyhood one, and the Chunin exam arc, and the subsequent conflict with Momoshiki. Boruto as a series is a classic diamond in the rough, and I am eager to see with what Ikemoto, Kodachi, and Kishimoto can do with it.